Hello there, Sharks. I'm Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com. If you want some poker news, check out PokerNews.com. They have all of it. Today, we're reviewing a hand from YouTube video blogger Matt Vaughan. He's been crushing it lately. He just chopped a $1,000 buy-in tournament at Venetian for $57,000. Huge congrats to him. And today, we're going to be taking a look at a hand from 2, 5, 10, No Limit Hold'em. All the players are playing $1,300, $1,000 deep, somewhere in there. But the opponent in this particular hand is only 43 big blinds deep, so let's keep that in mind.
In this next hand, we've got 1.3k in the stack. I'm in the straddle for 10. Early position limps in, middle position makes it 30, and the button calls.
Kind of an interesting size already. Limp to 10 and then $30 raise. Usually when you want to raise over a limp, you're going to want to make it about the size of the pot, maybe a touch less, so that would be something like 40 or 45 or 50. But whatever, raise to 30, that's good for us in the big blind. Because or good for us in the straddle because we're just getting better pot odds. We can call with more hands, right?
Small blind calls as well, and I'm sitting there with ace-8 of clubs in the straddle. Definitely an option here. We could absolutely 3-bet and squeeze, but I think that my image will sometimes be that I'm going to squeeze the spot more, so I decided to just call.
This is a great spot to just call. If you would have squeezed here thinking, I'm in the straddle, I need to battle. No. You're going to find that most people who do straddle often play way too loose, way too aggressive, and they just end up spewing off their stack. I actually have a quiz for you to discuss when you should 3-bet before the flop, because this is an important topic. Make sure you check it out at pokercoaching.com/3bet-quiz. All right, we call, we see the flop with the ace-8 of clubs.
And we'll play pretty well multi-way. The flop comes out Jack-9 deuce with 2 hearts, and it checks all the way around.
What would you do in this scenario if you faced a bet? Let's say it checked to the initial raiser and they bet $60 into the $125 pot. What would you do with the ace-8 of clubs? I want you to take a second to think about this. Pause the video and write what you would do in the comment section below if checks around the initial raiser, they bet 60 and it folds back to you. Do you fold the ace-high backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw? Do you call? Do you raise it up? Do we apply some aggression? Do we make it something like $180? Or do we make it giant, like $300? Pause the video and write what you would do in the comment section below. All right, this is a pretty tough spot if you're facing a $60 bet and they fold back to you. If this was a heads-up pot, you just can't fold this hand. But whenever you're playing a 3 or 4 or 5-way pot or a 7-way pot, as I know happens in a lot of small stakes games, you have to be very, very cautious whenever you're facing a bet. And right here, I think it's probably just okay to fold to a $60 bet or a bigger bet. If your opponent bets smaller, like 30, into the 125 pot, you should probably stick around either by calling or raising. But I think in this scenario, when your opponent bets into so many opponents, you just want to have a slightly better hand, like ace-10 of clubs. Just have an overcard to the 9. I know it may not seem like much, but it does matter. Also, the 10 gives you a few more backdoor straight draw possibilities, which is relevant. So I think this is probably okay just to fold. I know a lot of people try to play loose and splashy and gambly, but it doesn't pay. Gambling doesn't pay, everybody. All right, let's take a look at what happens in this scenario, though. It checks all the way through on the flop.
The turn is the 9 of hearts, and I think that I should probably just not stab at this pot at all.
Why? Why should we not stab at this pot at all? Take a second to think about this. Why should we not stab at this pot at all? Because I do agree with this. Well, if you think about the hands that likely check behind the flop on Jack-9-2, it's going to be a lot of marginal jacks, which are always going to call. It's going to be a lot of, some flush draws. They're going to check it behind sometimes. Those are going to call because they made a flush. And it's going to be a whole lot of 9s. Because if you think about the 9s the opponent could have, any of the opponents could have, they could have ace-9, king-9, queen-9, 10-9 offsuit for all I know. So this is a spot where when it does check through, you have to presume you're against a lot of marginal-ish made hands and just total garbage. The other problem here is that some of the total garbage just improved to a flush draw, like ace-king with the ace of hearts. If you bet here, ace-king with the ace of hearts is always going to call, right? Ace-queen with the ace or the queen of hearts is always going to call, right? And then you're not really going to know if you should be bluffing the river because you could be bluffing into a flush, you could be bluffing into a 9, which I don't think is going to fold, or you could be bluffing into the ace-high, which will fold. So it's a spot where you're in a pretty dicey scenario going to the river. If this was 3 ways and the small blind checks, I would probably go for a bluff. Because then when the small blind checks, you have to presume they don't have a lot of flushes, and also they don't have a lot of 9s because they would just bet them. And very often then the checker who would have raised initially probably doesn't have a whole lot. They may have like Jack 10 and worse. So that's a pretty good spot to go for a turn and river barrel. But as it gets more and more multi-way and your position gets worse and worse, you really just should not have a ton of bluffs in this scenario. And the bluffs you should have very often have some equity, like King of Hearts 10, right? King of Hearts 10 would be a reasonable hand to bluff here. Because you can bet, and if you get raised, you can just fold. And if you get called, you can barrel on basically every river. But I don't think we need to go for it in this spot. I would just check folded. As Matt said, he thinks he should do. Let's see what happens.
But when everybody checks this flop and the small blind checks to me as well, it's pretty unlikely that anybody has something particularly strong. So I decided to stab here with the intention of potentially stabbing turn and river.
If you are going to bet the turn here, you sure better be betting again on the river. What a lot of people do wrong is they bet the turn and then they just give up. But remember, ace king's going to call, ace queen's going to call, ace 10's going to call if they have a heart, right? And these are all hands that you very easily can make fold on the river. Also, like pocket 7s may call if it has a heart. So these are all hands that will call a turn bet and then fold to a river bet. So if you are going to bet turn here, you must bet the river on basically every river, right? Because the thing is if your opponents do have a hand like pocket 7s with a 7 of hearts and a heart comes, they may still find a nitty fold. If they have Jack 10 of spades and they decided to check it back on the flop, or pocket 10s with no heart, they may call a turn bet but then fold to a river bet when the heart comes. So you don't really know which cards are good or bad for you, but you do know your opponent's going to have a lot of weak hands on all the runouts, right? So this is a spot where if you are going to bet turn, you have to bet river. One thing I would disagree a little bit about here with Matt is that I definitely think all the opponents could have 9s in their range. Maybe small blind doesn't have so many 9s because they would probably bet those, but you know, maybe they're getting tricky for all I know. So this is a spot where I would definitely not discount 9s from the opponent's range. I do agree they probably don't have like pocket queens or ace jack or a flush because a lot of those hands just bet the flop, but whenever it checks through on the flop, it's usually a lot of marginal-ish hands, and the 9 connects very, very well with those. So you have to be careful bluffing in this spot.
So I bet 90, folds to the small blind who tanks and calls. The river is a complete brick, and she's only got about 310 in her stack, so I think this is a perfectly good time to bluff, basically stick with the plan. She does check, and I go ahead and make the shove. She tanks.
Good play. Very good play here. Seems like an easy shove to me. I don't know what the blank is. Whenever you are trying to remember your hand histories, always try to remember what the blank is, because like a 3 of spades, there you go, 3 of spades, couldn't even find a blank. A 3 of spades is very different than, let's say, the 7 of diamonds, right? I realize the 7 of diamonds is maybe just like obviously not a blank to some people, but it maybe is to some people. So just keep that kind of thing in mind. I would just write down the card if you can.
She tanks for a pretty long while, which seems pretty consistent with what I was thinking, that she would have a pretty medium strength hand here most of the time, or possibly something with just like the ace of hearts in it.
Ace of hearts will pretty much always fold. I mean, I would agree. I think you're against a lot of jack type hands. Jack X. Will a jack call and all in? I don't know. Some people will, some people won't. I still like the bluff though.
She tanks for about 30, 45 seconds and calls with pocket 9s.
Gotcha.
Yeah, with the literal nuts. Ooh, so that one wasn't too fun. She definitely got some odd looks from that hand. I don't know if she was trying to verify that she had quads or what.
All right. So you got slow rolled a little bit on the river, maybe nit rolled, who knows. It is worth noting, a lot of people get very, very offended when they get slow rolled. They think, why would you do this to me? But understand, there is no rule in poker that says you must table your hand immediately, right? If there is, there would be a penalty. So there is no rule that says you must table your hand immediately whenever you have the nuts. So understand that if something is well within the rules of the game, that you should not be offended when it happens to you, right? That's just a-okay. Some people, I'm not saying this is what happened in this scenario, but some people will actively try to slow roll to get you mad and tilted. Maybe they want to see you get mad and tilted. Maybe they play poker to inflict pain on the poker pros. And they can. So, in this scenario, should you get mad and angry? And the answer is just no. Realize that this is a-okay. It's part of the game. And move on with your life. Maybe you could act a little bit angry, a little bit flustered, but then, don't be. Then just keep playing good poker, because then maybe they'll think you're on tilt. Some people will go out of their way to try to make you perturbed. And when that happens, don't worry about it. And if your opponent really is the type of player who like can't remember her cards in this scenario, where she had to like double and triple check to make sure, do I really have a 9 and a 9? Then obviously that player wasn't trying to slow roll you. They just can't even read their hand. So in this scenario, either your opponent can't read their hand, in which case you want them to be playing with you, or they think you are so feeble-minded that you're going to get annoyed whenever they take an extra 20 seconds with their hand. Which kind of implies that maybe they're the type of player who gets annoyed whenever they get slow rolled, which means maybe they're a little bit prone to tilt. Maybe, maybe not. Depends on who your opponent is. Maybe they're just a good, strong player who's doing everything they possibly can to tilt you. So in all these scenarios, your response should not be to get angry and offended. Not that I'm saying Matt got angry or offended. I'm talking in general here. But you do not want to let things like this bother you, because some people will go way out of their way to try to do things like this to bother you, and don't let it. They think that you are so weak that these types of things will cause you to play poorly, and if that's the case, maybe they're right? That said, do not go around slow rolling people. I don't think there's any point in that. I will definitely say that life will be way better if people generally like playing with you as opposed to not liking playing with you. You don't want people to actively hate you, and some people will actively hate you. And it turns out when you're playing poker, you can make a lot of good friends and a lot of good contacts. And if you slow roll some people, they will not want to deal with you. So, make the game fun, make the game casual, have fun, and enjoy yourselves. That's going to be it for today. I like this bluff by Matt. It epically failed. Sometimes that's how it goes. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, click the like and subscribe button below. There's also a notification bell. We put out lots and lots of content here on YouTube, and I want to make sure you do not miss it. I want you to be the best poker player you can possibly be, and I'm here to do my best to help you with that. Good luck in your games. Have a great, great week, and I'll talk to you next time. Hello, Sharks. You all know me, and you know that we just reached 100,000 YouTube subscribers. Thanks again to all of you for making that happen. And as promised, we ran a big giveaway. It was free to enter. All of you could have done it. All you had to do was be a subscriber and head over to the link we provided. But now the giveaway is closed because we reached 100,000 subscribers. So now we are going to figure out who wins the 4 grand prizes. We have 3 1-hour coaching sessions with me, and one lucky person is going to win $1,000. I uploaded all of these names into a random number generator spinning wheel. We are going to spin the wheel and see who wins. If you are the winners, you will be reached out to via email, but for fun, let's see who wins. All right, 3 1-hour coaching sessions with me. Let's spin the wheel. Here we go. Winner number 1 is a lot of names. Patrick Ryan. I'm going to teach you how to crush poker. Winner number 2 of a 1-hour coaching session with me is Seems Fishy. All right, Seems Fishy. We're going to make sure that you are not fishy anymore. Winner number 3 of 1 hour of private coaching with me is going to be David Bates. All right, 3 winners who will all get a 1-hour coaching session with me. If you want one of those, make sure you play a bunch of hands, get a lot of questions, make sure you record some hands, because that's going to make our hour together very, very beneficial for you. All right, now, what you've all been waiting for. $1,000. Who's going to win the $1,000? Let's spin the wheel. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Is it you? Is it you? It might be. Anthony Jack. Huge congrats to Anthony Jack for winning the $1,000 prize. Again, we will be sending emails to all of the winners. Congrats to all of them. And thanks to all of you for helping me get to 100,000 YouTube subscribers. I appreciate all of you infinitely. What's big, green, and gives you the freedom to do whatever you want? Yeah, it's money. And if you want to start your journey to a big pile of money, click the subscribe button right over here. See you in the next video.